Hi guys! I have another guest here in Alaska, in Homer, Alaska, my friend Sally. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I met Sally. It's like how Christian met Sally, basically. And it was about a year ago in the Isle of Man. I was staying in a bed and breakfast. Sally was having breakfast with me in the same room, and I was like, oh, American accent. And yeah, so we started talking, and I ended up driving her around the Isle of Man, showing her around, and she told me about the Alaska World Arts Festival, where I have now basically volunteered for like 2 weeks. So it's absolutely amazing, and it's an honor to have Sally here in an interview, because if I Google you, have you ever Googled yourself?
I don't think so.
So if I Google you, the stuff that I find is like musician, writer, producer, director, world traveler, entrepreneur. So it's like, if you want to introduce yourself, how would you introduce yourself to the audience?
I'm Sally, and I get bored if I don't have a few titles, so, so I do a few different things.
Which is your favorite one?
I can't really say that one of them is my favorite. I like them all. I just finished doing the World Arts Festival, so I'm exhausted from that. So I'll say that's not my favorite one today. But in a few months, it'll be my favorite one again. And I'm about to go traveling, so that's my favorite one. And when I'm done with that, I'll probably get excited about a theater production. So that's pretty much all of it.
Nice. Okay, so where did you come from? How did you get to Homer?
Oh, boy. How much time do we have?
The short version.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in California, and when California was still a little more, I won't say quaint, but less California. And I left there and just started traveling. And I was with a guy, we were traveling, and he got a job offer in Alaska. So that's how I got to Alaska, and then I got to Homer, sort of. A lot of friends lived here, they moved here, and the guy that I was living with, we were looking for a place to live, and I just threw it out there because we didn't really have a better idea.
So. Yeah, so the end of the road was like the
end of the road. But I actually got in a van in the late 80s, and I drove around for 3 years seeing if there was a better place, and I still ended up back here. So.
Did you drive with the van from California all the way up here?
I drove the Alcan 6 times during those 3 years.
Okay.
And we put 112,000 miles on our van. So we went to everywhere pretty much.
Amazing.
Yeah.
The proper van life.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. 3 years. I would do that again.
Love it. The furthest I got was from Germany down to Greece. So that was quite a drive as well.
That's a good one. Yeah.
So how about music? How much music is still in your life?
Oh, well, let's see. I write musical theater, so for musical theater, and that's so I do that. That's a good chunk of time. We spend, I'm gonna say, at least a half a year working on that. But I also do a monthly production at a local pub, Alice's Champagne Palace, and so I bring music in, and when I run out of acts or if somebody cancels and there's too many blank spots, I'll fill in and do a little music.
Which instruments do you play?
I play guitar. I can dink around on other instruments. That's my musical instrument.
It's just that there's guitars everywhere in this house. Like we're in Sally's living room, by the way.
Yeah.
There's guitars everywhere.
Well, it's not just me, it's my son too. We have maybe at least 10, maybe 11 guitars.
And a bass and a banjo.
And an instrument that I don't know the name of, and a mandolin and a violin. And we also have some horns and drums and things that you can't see from my living room.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm. So what was like, you were a musician for a while, right?
Yeah, I played. My father was a musician, and so I grew up with a lot of music in the house. And they used to have jam sessions in our dining room, which turned into my parents' bedroom ultimately. And we had a lot of music, a lot of color in our house, a lot of beautiful sounds and experiences. And then I studied art, not music. And at some point, I actually was pretty young when I started playing guitar, but when I started playing professionally in clubs, I was maybe 21 or something. so a grown up, and I played for years. I played for 20 years and professionally.
Like proper big festivals and
Everything,
venues.
festivals. I did busking on the street, but I played in clubs and bars and pubs and festival stages, and we did shows and everything in between.
Nice. And so basically music was like being interested in art. Music was just one of the pieces of the art world that you were fascinated by.
I sort of looked at it like I studied art so heavily that it got to be work for me, and I just kind of put that aside, and playing music it just felt like freedom from the structure.
Yeah, makes sense. You create your own structure, sort of.
Yeah, exactly.
Sort of,
or no structure. You just close your eyes and sing or scat and, I did different styles of music.
So if you play jazz, it's more like breaking out and like leaving the structure behind.
Yeah, and that's what I ended up doing. Started with folk music into rock music into blues and ended up in jazz.
All right. So, and you're also a world traveler. How did that come about?
I just got a taste of it and couldn't stop. Maybe I love to travel. The thing I love about travel is, of course, the new environment, constantly stimulating everything, every sense, but also the cultural piece where you meet people from completely different spaces, different backgrounds, different everything, and you see what you have in common. And I'm really fascinated with that. And that's pretty much the premise of the whole Alaska World Arts Festival is being able to share world cultures in our culture.
It's where other people see differences. We see similarities.
Right? I love that.
It was a weird thing when I came, because I did a round the world trip, as you know, like earlier this year. And when I came back, and my manager in the office, he asked me, so how was it? And I said, well, in the end, I figured everything is actually sort of the same. It's like I have to go find accommodation, I have to find food, and you meet people, and you talk to people, and you have a beer with them. So in the end, it's sort of all the same, just in different settings. And he was like, oh, that's quite discouraging. It's like, no, I think it's actually a cool thing. It's like, it's nice to know that we're all the same in a way, right?
It is, and just this last trip that I took last winter, it's the first time I really thought there are people who are really different too. So that was a eye-opener for me. And
you were in Africa, right? Was that
I was in Ethiopia.
Yeah.
I was in several countries in Africa where there were people I could relate to, and in parts of Ethiopia as well, but there were parts of Ethiopia where there were nomads and villages that were so different from our culture that even if I'm a mother and they're a mother, or even if they're cooking and they know I cook, and I just could not find a common ground.
Yeah.
But I find that really fascinating.
It's probably because I was in Asia, but I was mainly in Western kind of culture, so that's probably why I thought everything is sort of the same. And then I think those touch points that I had in Asia were also quite Westernized, so I didn't have those kind of experiences where you're really out in the jungle, basically, and meeting tribes and nomads.
But I really think that for the most part what you said is true, even when you get outside of Western culture, that they want to connect and that we have the same human desire for love and connection. I just think that I found the ultimate extreme, and I really was looking for that, so I found it. No, I'm not going to go back there right away. But it was a really good experience to have that.
So let me get
challenge.
to something. I just asked before we switched the camera if it's okay. Because may I ask your age?
I am 67.
67. So Sally is like 5 years older than my mom. And she's an absolute inspiration, like traveling the world, organizing stuff where other people they are just looking forward to hitting like 60 or 65, so I can stop work and sit on the couch. And I'm like, this is not how my brain works. As I'm 40, I still have a bit to go, but it's like, this is not where my brain is. So it's incredible. Like when I met Sally, it was so inspiring to know like once you are 60, 65 and whatever, you can keep going and just go crazy and travel the world and organize arts festivals. Right? So how do you
It's an illness.
Okay, so it's an illness.
No, but I couldn't possibly stop doing those things unless something stopped me. But certainly not my mind at this point.
You've been doing it your whole life, so it's now basically you just keep doing it.
Yeah.
It's
And I
amazing.
think we decide. I mean, we decide who we are, what we are, and what we do, and what we can do. And I've seen people much younger than you. I can remember a boyfriend sitting on the beach in Mexico with a older person, and they said to him, "Wow, how do you get to be so free and just travel around and do that?" I'm on my 2-week vacation a year, and my boyfriend said, "Well, we just decided to do it." And the guy asked how old he was, and my boyfriend was older than this guy. So it's just a matter of deciding in your head, if you're old or not.
Yeah, it's like I know my mom is not going to watch this, so it's fine. But like,
Mine might.
I have like these constant conversations with her, just saying, "Mom, you might still have 30 years in front of you, right?" Mm-hmm. And she's just like basically done, and it's freaking me out because I'm giving her now exercises to do it. I'm trying like, what can I give her to keep her mind occupied? And because I've seen that before, like as soon as people stop work and leave their 9-to-5 routine, it just goes, whew, unless you keep going, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure if just my life experiences are different than other people's. I've had several trips where I could have fallen down and I just did not want to. And I had a couple hard crashes that could have stopped me, and I just don't think life would have been worth it if I'd stopped. And I think that your attitude determines the quality of your life. And if you decide you're old, that's in fact what you are.
It's it, yeah.
I had a health issue, and it lasted 1 year. It was a false diagnosis, but I was diagnosed with a bad illness that was going to take me out. And a year later, I found out that it was an incorrect diagnosis. I spent a year being really sick. Yeah. And I wasn't.
Yeah.
But they told me I was. So I think if you decide you're old or that you can't, I'm sad to say that that's in fact what your truth will be.
Exactly. There's a really interesting, I don't know where that was. There was an experiment that people did. Unfortunately, I forgot where it was, but it was like they showed students like movies, right? So it's a group of 50-50. Like one group of the students was shown like movies of young kids playing in the playground and doing stuff, and the other group was shown videos of like old people, elderly people walking on sticks and all that.
Yeah.
And after that, the students thought, oh, that was the test, just us watching that. But what the actual test was, they filmed them how they left the building walking down the stairs. And those that watched the kids were like jumping down the stairs and really energetic, and those that watched the old people were like holding onto the rail and really slowly. Incredible. Just like a half an hour movie had that effect. So it's really what you think. That's what
it's really what you think.
It's amazing, right?
And I had this idea because as you grow old, things fail on you, and that's just the way it is. And I had a pretty unfortunate, I won't say an accident that disabled me, and I just had to figure out what I could do and not what I couldn't do. So I moved from being a skier to being a hiker, or whatever it was. I can still climb a mountain, I just can't ski down it. So I mean, I just believe fully that if you dwell on the stuff that is crap, then that's where you're going to be. And if you just go to where, I don't know, to go to the light. I don't know how to say it, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I had an aha moment because I'm diagnosed with MS, and then touch wood, I don't have a lot of symptoms going on, but like it was shortly after I was diagnosed. I was in Paris. So it was my first solo trip ever, and I was in Paris, and I looked around and just pictured me being in a wheelchair now, and I was like, this would suck. Like I couldn't do anything. Yeah. So that was like 2006, and I made a resolution with myself that I'm going to travel as much as I possibly can, as long as I can.
Yeah. And I used to say, I'll travel till I'm 70. Oh my God, that's so soon. It'll have to be 80 now.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Just
yeah.
extend that a little.
And maybe more. We'll see. Yeah.
So now Homer is your home, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the meaning of home for you?
Well, your camera is not on my view, but if it were to be,
I'll switch
around,
the
yeah,
camera
but-
around later.
Yeah,
Sure.
I love it here. So I did look. I spent 3 years looking for some place that I thought I would like better, and I think there's a lot of beautiful places on the earth, and
You've seen a lot, right?
and Homer is one of those really beautiful places. I also love the community, and most of all, they are a group of people who say yes to anything I want to do. And that's a pretty unique thing. I mean, I want to be a theater writer, director, producer, whatever, and I can. I was in the theater last year with the guy that I co-write with, and we were the only two in the theater, and it's a 500-seat state-of-the-art theater built with oil money that we can go into and say, what do you want to do in here? Wow. And just the smell of it and the feel of it. It's just, oh my God. And it's like magic. And you put a little super glue on some cardboard and all of a sudden you've got a set, and you can just make something from nothing. And I don't know, maybe I could do it anywhere in the world, but this is the place that has been saying yes to me, and so I keep coming back.
It's beautiful. So what's your next trip? It's coming up soon, right?
Coming up in Saturday, a few days. I'm going to stop and see family and friends, and then I go down the Amazon River. I meet 28 clients and do that trip. And then I go meet a friend in the Galapagos Islands and try and find a boat that will take us to see something cool. And then I come back and work on, you want me to keep going?
Yeah.
I'm going to work on the set for the Nutcracker and make it look magical.
So that's back here.
Back to Homer for about 2 or 3 weeks at Thanksgiving. And then I rented a house in Spain for January, and I go to Morocco after that, and then I come back here. We start on a new production that I wrote with my co-writer Michael McKinney, and we go on stage in April.
And then you're also going to start planning the next Alaska World Arts Festival, right?
I already started.
Yeah. So just to say, this just finished, and on the last day of the festival, she announced already the next one for next year. So do you want to just talk about this one and then what you've planned for next year?
Sure. About this one.
Yeah. How was it?
It was great. It was super,
So
just fun.
first ever Alaska World Arts Festival in Homer,
Yeah.
and 100 venues.
Well, actually, over 100 venues.
Over 100.
So, no, 100. Sorry, over 100 acts, 130 activities actually, and 60 venues about, and we had people from all over the world. I think 7 continents we counted, and no, 6 continents we counted, and I don't have a list of how many people, but so many lovely people from all across the world and across America and across Alaska. And I think the experience for the people who put it together, the experience for the actual artists that came, and for the attendees, I think it was equally pretty darn great. We all had a good time. That's the feedback I've gotten.
So when was the, because I expected once the festival is over, there's a couple of days where you just look at some numbers and so on, but when was the decision made that there is going to be a 2020?
When people started applying for it, which was several months ago. And I mean, of course it was pending and dependent on whether or not this was a success, but there's pretty much no question about that. And I was called, before the festival was over, I was called by the Chamber of Commerce asking for next year's date. So we already had them.
That's amazing. Okay, so we don't know yet about the big stuff that might happen or might not happen. We'll
Right.
have your eyes peeled. Where can they get updates on?
Well, online at alaskaworldarts.org is where we'll make the announcement first. And we're
The social media channels, of course.
yes, of course, right? You know about those. Yeah. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so I have 2 questions left. And one is, if you could give like one big message out to mankind, what would it be?
We're all the same.
Nice, very nice. Okay, and then the final one, and this is one I've heard about people ask in job interviews apparently in America, I don't know. And it is like, what would you attempt if you knew you wouldn't fail?
Everything I've ever attempted in the past, and I haven't come up with anything yet. I mean, anything I've wanted to attempt, I've
You just
done
go-
it, and
yeah.
it's worked out nicely for me.
That's amazing.
I believe, if I believe in it, I'm really good at convincing other people to believe in it. So, it's I don't know, and I don't have an answer
That's
to that.
amazing. It's
because-
like there's so many people that just stop themselves from doing things because they think they won't succeed, so they don't even try it, right? So having that mindset of saying, I'll
Yeah.
just go do it. And if it, did you have like some projects that failed and you go like, oh, okay, learn from it? Or is everything you touch gold?
Well, you have to define what failure is. If you learn something from it,
That's
it's not
true.
a failure. I can't think of anything that hasn't really worked out well for me. But it's also again back to attitude. So I'm pretty happy with. I feel pretty rewarded with my attempts at lots of stuff. Wait, if you ask me that question again, I just thought of something. Go ahead, say it.
What would you attempt if you knew you couldn't fail?
Oh, skiing.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so that's it for the questions. Is there anything you still want to share? How could people get in touch with you if they want to?
Yeah. The question I thought that was going to be is, what would I do if I could do anything? And I ask that question of people, and the question is more like, if money didn't matter and you could do anything you wanted, what would it be? And the response is generally something like, I don't know, I've never thought about it. And that breaks my heart because
Yeah.
I want people.
My answer is always travel.
Yeah,
That's
well, my answer is always, well, spend some time thinking about it, find out what your passion is, and just do it.
Yeah.
Make time for it, even if it's a small amount of time. But yeah, and I want to say I have great hopes for the Alaska World Arts Festival being more better received worldwide. It's on its way, and I'm really excited about that.
Nice.
And alaskaworldarts.org.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you very much, Sally. It's inspiration for everybody out there, definitely for me. So I'm really glad that I ran into her in that bed and breakfast in the Isle of Man.
Me too.
And we're going to have some nice food now.
I'm ready.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.